Good evening and a warm welcome to residents attending and also who may be watching us on our council YouTube channel. Just the normal meeting announcements. Fire alarm's not expecting one this evening, so if it goes off we will be evacuating. The speediest way out of the building is through the doors you came in, and then those off to your right hand side, not round back on you and down the stairs. We will be with you, we'll escort you, it's not a problem. If those doors are blocked for any reason, there are fire exits behind us. Mobile telephones, can I ask everybody please to have their mobile phones and iPads set to silent, please? That will be most helpful. Residents' feedback forms, they are provided, and we do encourage residents to provide feedback on our meetings so that we may improve the way we run them, and I understand that you are also able to submit feedback online from a pull-down menu. Okay, number of people around the room. I will introduce them all to you. The planning committee themselves are made up by council members. Forgive me, I may not have introduced myself. I'm Councillor Ian Edwards and I'm chairman of the Central and South Planning Committee. The other councillors in the room are the voting members of the committee. And on my left-hand side, Councillor Duncan, Councillor Dillon and Councillor Birra. And on my right-hand side, we have Councillor Chapman, Councillor Chamdal, Councillor Ahmed Walana, and then Councillor Brightman. Also assisting us, there are officers of the council, and they provide us with technical advice. On my far left-hand side, Kerry Munro is our legal officer. Liz Penny is the clerk to the meeting. James Rogers, head of planning. Meg Harani is a planning officer and will be presenting each of the planning applications. Stuart Hunt is our green spaces manager and trees expert. And Alan Tilley is our transport manager in the event of issues requiring advice on highways. Very quickly, it is a meeting held in public, but not a public meeting, therefore there are no general speaking rights. The only people that can speak are those that have submitted a petition, and we do have one this evening, and in response to that petition the agent or applicant may also speak, and ward councillors may speak on any matter if they are present and indicate their desire to do so. I'll speak you through those, I'll discuss how we do that as we get to those parts. I will very quickly go through the standard 5 items of the agenda, and we'll start with apologies for absence, please.
Councillor Yarrow sends his apologies, Chairman.
Yes, thank you. Declarations of interest matters coming before this meeting this evening. Are there any? I have one in part 2, the last item. I have previously been involved in reporting this estate and this problem. Although this is a separate one, I believe my antecedents is such that I should disqualify myself for it, so therefore I will be leaving the room. In the absence of the Vice Chairman, we will need to take a vote on a Vice Chair. Thank you. Councillor Chamdal.
Thank you, Chairman. On that account, I'd like to propose Councillor Alan Chapman.
Thank you. Councillor Brightman.
Seconded.
Thank you. Do I have a show of hands agreed on that one? That is agreed. Thank you very much. So when I leave, Councillor Chapman will take over as Chair. Sign and receive the minutes of the previous meeting, and that was the 21st of November in the pack. Are they agreed, colleagues? Thank you very much. No matters notified in advance urgent. And item 5, and this is about part 1 and part 2. Part 1 are the general planning applications which will be presented in public. Members of the public are able to watch it either by being present or, as I say, following us on YouTube. Part 2 are private discussions, and they are matters of enforcement. We will break between part 1 and part 2 and invite members of the public to leave the room, and we will also be breaking the CCTV link. The actual item, each item in part 2 is published, so you know what the topic is, and we will also publish the decision, but the discussion is a matter that is held in private. Okay, so we're now into the applications with petition. And this is agenda item 6, number 31, Home Grove. Mr. Harani.
Thank you, Chairman. 31 Home Grove is a 2-storey detached dwelling which is located at the junction of Home Grove with Monterey Close. and the site is within the Hillingdon Court Park area of special local character. The application before you is for a front porch and a two-storey rear extension. In terms of the front porch, this is a fairly subordinate development which complies with all of the council's requirements and is considered acceptable. In terms of the rear two-storey extension, this again complies in terms of its depth, design and height with the council's normal requirements as set out in the supplementary planning document on residential extensions. The main issue for members to consider is the impact of the extension on the surrounding neighbours. And in relation to that, if I can just go to the plans, that's the site, and I'm sorry about the colours, but it's because there's about 4 or 5 different colours overlain that you can't really tell, but it is within the Hillingdon Court Park area of special local character. This is the property as existing and the proposed extension. As members can see, it doesn't cover the full width of the property. It is set some 7 metres from the adjoining property at number 30, this one, which has been extended. This property is set forward, but it has been extended so that the extension is in compliance with the council's requirements for a 45-degree angle from the nearest habitable room window on that property. The issue in relation to the rear of the site, number 24 Home Grove, that is some 15.5 metres between the extension and the back of that property, and some 7.5 metres from the actual boundary of the site. The 15.5 metres complies. There are no habitable room windows on the first floor proposed within the extension, as you can see. The only window that is proposed is a bathroom window, which would be obscure glazed. The distance between the extension and the properties on Monterey Close falls short of the normal requirements. Normal requirement again is 15 metres, and the distance would be just short of 14 metres. So it does fall short, but your officers consider the existing property is also the same distance, and there are trees on that boundary which would in essence obscure the extension, so the impact is considered acceptable. If I can just go to the photographs, you can probably see the trees, the porch to the front, the rear extension. This is the front of the property. And these are the properties which front Monterey Close. And that's number 30 that you can see to the rear here. The extension is in essence sort of in that line there, this side of the property. These are taken from Monterey Close, these photographs. As you can see, these trees are the ones that would in essence obscure the extension from those properties. These are just looking towards the rear of the site. That is looking towards Monterey Close, and this is looking towards the property at the rear, number 30. So your officers consider that the impact is acceptable, and the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harani. Mr. Mark Walsh, you wish to speak to the committee? If you'd like to come forward, so you will see a microphone on a base, and there's a button towards the front edge. That's a toggle on, toggle off. We do need you to use the microphone, otherwise what you say isn't captured on YouTube. You will have 5 minutes speaking time, okay? And the lights here will assist you. You'll have 4 minutes with a green light, 1 with an amber, and when it goes to red, I do need to bring you to a close, to be fair.
Okay.
So at your own time, sir, if you'd like to commence, we will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Unfortunately, one of the photos that would have been good to have been shown there would have been looking out from my property on to number 30. It's unfortunate that wasn't a photograph that was showed there, because you would have seen what I actually see from my house looking out on what would be the new extension.
This photograph?
To a point, yes, which actually we'll pick up in a while. Yeah, okay. Paragraph 612 of HDAS states that at least 21 metres should be between facing habitable rooms. However, the rear extension would be located only 15.5 metres from the rear of wall of 24 Home Grove. So paragraph 612 is clearly not being complied with, as an additional 5.5 metres is required between the two properties to comply. This is a significant shortfall of 25%. Home Grove lies in an area of special local character, and it appears that the planning department are disregarding this fact. When I moved into Home Grove, parallel to my house and garden, there was a large garden with trees and shrubs. Monterey Close was subsequently developed, replacing the garden with 4 three-storey townhouses and a road. In addition, and opposed to by local residents, owners of 30 Home Grove were recently given permission to build a rear extension, which has now been built. If planning permission is approved at number 31, this would appear to be further evidence of disregard for this being an area of special local character, and sets a precedent for further building requests. As mentioned, since moving into Home Grove, I now have the 4 townhouses from Monterey Close parallel to me. 3 of those houses have visibility into my home and back garden. I overhear the noise from these residents, and there is noise from their cars and motorbikes as the road from Monterey Close runs just a few metres parallel to my boundary. So in addition to all of this, which is parallel to my property, I am now potentially going to have a building construction closer to my home from the south as well. I really feel I'm getting closed in, and request you to consider my position and the phrase detrimental sense of dominance, which I strongly believe appears in this case. So in summary, we have a request for planning permission that does not comply with paragraph 612 of HDAS, continues to go against the principle of this being an area of special local character, and is considered a detrimental sense of dominance. Local residents are extremely concerned, and this has led to 25 people, which is a large percentage of Home Grove, signing a petition against these proposed works. Ignoring the local feeling is obviously going to cause unrest amongst these residents. If planning permission is granted, I request the following things to be strongly considered and implemented. As per the picture that I issued, there is a fence that owners of number 31 are responsible for that divides my back garden with 31. The fence is in a poor state of repair, has gaps and a large section missing, which is directly opposite where the re-extension would be built. It therefore does not provide an adequate boundary or privacy that would shield me from the rear extension at number 31. Therefore, I request that prior to commencement of any work, the fence is replaced with a new fence that reaches the whole width of the garden and is a height of 280 centimetres. As per the report by a head of planning, the windows facing 24 and 30 Home Grove shall be glazed with permanently obscured glass and be non-opening below a height of 1.8 metres, taken from internal finished floor level. I strongly request this is enforced. When the building work at number 30 Home Grove was in progress, work was regularly undertaken outside designated hours, especially on Saturday afternoons. Petitioners are concerned whether the same disregard of planning approval conditions might occur at number 31, as the same builders are due to undertake this work. We request that any non-compliance issues reported to the planning department by residents of Home Grove are promptly addressed. We request that in advance of any works commencing, the owners of 31 are informed of these residents' concerns and of the ramifications of non-compliance with the planning rules and conditions. Thank you for listening, and I do have copies of my notes if anyone would like any copies handed out to them.
Thank you very much, sir. Colleagues, are there any questions at all of Mr. Walsh? Thank you very much, sir. If I invite you to return to your seat. Do we have the applicant or agent, Mr. Singh or Mr. Joshi, present? No? No councillor wishing to speak? Okay. I took from the petition a few items that need to be considered. Firstly, the comment of 21 metres, this not being compliant, and habitable rooms. Mr. Harani, can you again please explain to the committee and also to the petitioner our policies on the separation distances?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. The 21 metres relates to facing windows between habitable rooms. So you're talking about bedroom windows to bedroom windows, living room windows to living room windows, or similar type of uses. No such windows are proposed which are within 21 metres of any of the properties that surround this site. The only windows on the first floor that are proposed are non-habitable room windows, which is a bathroom window, and that is conditioned to be obscure glazed and non-opening below 1.8 metres, as condition 5 requires that. So, and the distance that is normally required between non-habitable room windows and the other properties that surround it is 15 metres, and this complies with that requirement.
Thank you very much. The petitioner also mentioned a condition around the obscure glazing and requiring that to be robustly enforced, and I very much hope, and it's the council's expectation, that all our conditions are robustly enforced. The condition 5, does this apply to all the windows on the rear face, or is it we're only talking about the first floor here?
It does actually apply to all of the windows, including the ground floor windows, if there are any on the ground floor as well.
Thank you very much. Petitioner also commented on this being an area of special local character, and the fact that designation appears to have no limitations at all on the development taking place in the area. Can you assist the committee here with what the area of special local character is aiming to protect, and the impact of this development on that, please?
The area of special local character is designated in the main because of its open character, because of the design of the buildings that are within it, and so on. And so it's not really a preservation area, which means that you can't develop anything within it. But if it is acceptable, then it's got to be designed to match and be in character with the other properties and the property that is being extended. And in this particular case, your officers consider that to be the case.
Thank you. And there will be other issues that I'm confident committee members will wish to discuss, but also the suggestion by the petitioner about a conditioning of rear fence and the height of 2.8 metres.
Generally, again, in residential properties, members will know that generally 2 metres is probably the maximum height of fences that we would find acceptable. 2.8 metres starts to impact, again, on the character of the area and so on in terms of its height and appearance, because what happens is that you have to kind of tack on bits. You normally get a standard fence which is 2 metres high, then anything higher than that you have to tack bits onto it, which in terms of its appearance is not that great. So that's one issue. The other issues are that it's difficult as part of a planning application for extensions to require maintenance of fences or to require new fences to areas which are not impacted by the extension itself, really, unless members feel that having a fence which is 2 metres or 2.8 metres high would overcome an issue and make this extension acceptable. When it wasn't acceptable, then I think it's difficult for us to require that.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, open this for your discussion consideration. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Chairman. The trees at Montretos is a picture. That's the one. They belong to...
Highways. Now, whether it's a private road or not, I'm not sure, but they are on the highway. They're not in the boundary of any particular property.
In theory, nobody could cut those down, and then there could be an issue.
Unless, as I say, it's either a council or it's a private management company.
Councillor Duncan?
Thank you. Could I just ask a little bit about this? It seems a curious application in some ways. I can understand people wanting to extend their kitchen area and making it perhaps a kitchen diner or something like that, but to then go to the cost of adding an additional first floor and a roof for a family bathroom and a boiler cupboard, which is, it seems to me that the boiler cupboard, which I'm assuming is what I call an airing cupboard, is the one that's shown on the landing next to the stairs, which remains. And I just wondered if there was any indication in previous applications, which I know there had been, that the applicant wanted to extend the number of bedrooms, because we're still ending up with 2 bedrooms and a study upstairs, which is unusual for this amount of space to be added on. I'm just concerned that we're saying these should be glazed, obscure glaze, non-opening, all the rest of it. That's fine if it's just going to be a bathroom or something like that. But are we approving something here which could then be used as a bedroom or as an additional accommodation, but really at substandard build, because we don't have obscure glazed windows to bedrooms and habitable rooms?
Okay, Mr. Arnie, is there any way we can protect the use of this extended room on the first floor?
We could add a condition which says that it can't be converted to a habitable room because of the limitations that are placed on the windows there.
I think I would like to see something like that, Chair, if that could be suggested, just simply to protect the living environment, because it may be that there may be other intentions, or I may be doing a grave wrong to someone here, but I certainly would not want this to be approved and for then at some point that to be used as really very substandard accommodation for somebody.
Thank you. And could you add a little bit on with regards to the resulting amenity space once the extension's built, whether or not it could...
This would still remain as a 3-bed property, which the normal requirement is 60 square metres, and this is approximately, 97 it is measured at, so it's well above the requirement.
So that it in itself doesn't become an issue. This is about protecting the amenity from privacy issue from it. Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Can I ask what the standard is for a 4-bed property, please?
The 4-bed is 100, so it would be close.
Councillor Prime.
Regarding the trees, how close are they to the proposed extension, and are they likely to have the building works to have an impact on them? They look fairly old trees, and they could be, if the roots are cut through for the extension.
We're very fortunate to have a trees expert with us. Might be able to comment.
It is likely that the extension would damage the roots of the tree, so they would need to be protected in some way, being how close they are to the proposed extension. Yes.
Is there any way of enforcing that to make sure that the roots are protected, or is it inevitable with the extension that they will be damaged?
Sorry, would you answer that one at the moment, please?
Yeah,
thank you.
Inevitable that there would be some damage. It could be mitigated, but with its close proximity, it is inevitable there would be some damage to the tree roots, yes.
Just before I bring you in, Councillor Duncan, I know, just developing this theme, I noticed that the condition on tree protection it is more about above ground protection rather than below ground protection, and I wondered whether or not it might be appropriate to put a method statement here about the foundations in some way to ensure protection of the tree, or do you believe that they could take the roots out down that whole length and they still survive?
No site clearance or construction work shall take place until details have been submitted to and approved in writing by the local authority for tree protection. So there's a whole method statement that needs to be provided under point 7 RES 8.
So condition 7 requires details of tree protection, and a method statement would show how it would protect the roots as well. So that condition should cover the sort of possible damage to the roots.
Okay, Councillor Duncan, please. Thank you.
I think that to actually go down and do normal foundations would do damage to the tree roots, but that in this case, and I think we have had previous applications similar to this, it's been necessary to pile, and if you do that, then it is possible to cause less damage, but you would need quite extensive tree survey work to show exactly what was there and where you were going to pile in order to mitigate damage. Because it's no good just saying you're going to do piling work, it's where you're going to do the piling work. I think you need to incorporate that into this somewhere.
I agree. I'm getting a feel here from members and also from the observations and the way the actual application has been presented, that those trees are quite a necessary issue when it comes to protecting the amenity of the residents in Monterey Close. Therefore, protecting the and part of the character. Therefore, protecting the trees is quite important. My reading, and again reading here, but I can't give it quite the attention I should do whilst also chairing, is that this doesn't suggest to me that it is necessarily going to protect the roots. I can't see anything in here that's saying that below ground works need to be approved.
Talking about the position and type of fencing to protect the entire root areas, but nothing about the construction, which really would involve piling. You don't pile fences, but you do pile buildings.
What would cover the protection of the roots and the trunk and so on would be the method statement. So that would show what the sequence of development would be, and the building works that would need to take place and the tree protection measures that would occur. So it's the building works, and if they're showing that within that method statement that it would be piled, then they would need to show how that would be done, and foundation. So
if we could just add in there, I don't know whether that causes you difficulty, but having
we could put building works including foundation,
groundworks, anything like that, because it can also apply to drainage and anything else. So it's about groundworks in particular that needs to be certified and approved by our trees officer, that we're not going to end up weakening those trees to such an extent that they get blown over. We need to make sure that if this is approved, that those trees can remain healthy. Okay, that's noted. Thank you. Councillor Dillon.
Just on those trees, my concern is that if they should die in the future, etc., or if it's on private land and they are removed at some stage by a contractor who's not council, then that obviously then causes an issue with the 15-metre rule. So would we be able to protect those trees from that?
Mr. Roger.
I think there's a question for the tree officer that may help members, which is how hardy is that particular street that particular tree species, and I think the answer to that question may give you some comfort.
Yeah, they are very resilient trees to any works around them, as you can see from the pruning works that have happened in the past, that they are still surviving. So they are a resilient tree species, yes.
Thank you. Yes, again, please.
But that may not stop, if that road is a private road, from somebody wanting to cut them down.
A separate issue may be the consideration of a tree protection order, but that is, I believe, a separate matter and something that would need to be considered and maybe put forward by residents or by the local councillor. But I think the two can stand separately. Okay.
That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Anything else, colleagues, on this one? If I may try and pull it together, this appears to be compliant with regards to policy, so long as the extension on the first floor is not a habitable room, and therefore we're looking to an enhanced condition to prevent that. Also, we are retaining the obscure glazing to prevent any potential overlooking. The petitioner's comments regarding a rear fence to the height of 2.8 metres has been noted, but we have had comment here that is outside of the practice of the council, and therefore I would not be encouraging members to follow that through. But otherwise, I've not heard of any reason why we should be preventing this development, subject to safeguarding of those trees through the method statement of building works, and there's very slight tweaking of that condition 7. If that's a fair summary, I look for somebody to develop this, please. Thank you. Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, I'll take it forward. I mean, I appreciate the petitioner's concerns. I think the informatives and the conditions in our discussion we've done our best to alleviate those concerns. It's in policy, so I'd like to take it forward and go with officer's recommendation.
Thank you very much. I have a second, please. Councillor Chapman. Thank you very much. Show of hands, please, on approval on this one. Unanimous. Okay, that is agenda item 6 was approved, subject to some changes to the conditions that seek to protect the amenity of residents and the trees, which are also adding to the special character and the amenity of residents. We move now, please, to agenda item 7, number 2, Blackford Close, Hayes.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application for the conversion of the property into 2 one-bed flats. Members will note from the planning history that enforcement action was undertaken regarding conversion of the dwelling to 2 flats, but that was for 2 two-bedroom flats, which did not comply with the size requirements as set out in the technical standards, the national standards, and the breach was rectified and the property returned to a single-family dwelling. The current application does comply with the requirements. It is over 50 square metres for each flat. The amenity space for each flat complies, and parking is provided in compliance. So your officers are recommending approval for this application. If I can just go through the plans, members will see that it has a fairly ordinary, shall we say, side extension to it, which has made the property large enough for conversion, and there is a condition restricting the internal subdivision to provide additional bedrooms to make sure that it stays as one-bedroom units in compliance with the national standards. So, with complying with our standards, the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Sorry, thank you very much. Colleagues? Councillor Fagan?
Well, it's already there. It complies with our standards. I move officer's recommendation.
Thank you very much. Councillor?
Does that car encroach on the highway, on the pavement though, whereas it's parked?
Mr Tilley, can you comment on this one? I believe it is covered in the report. I think it's mentioned.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Currently, that car does encroach onto the footway. With the new development, parking is provided parallel to the highway. Thank you.
Good spot. Okay, it's been proposed to have a seconder, please. Councillor Ahmed Willano, show of hands, please. On everybody, that is unanimous. Thank you. Number 8. 376 Balmoral Drive, Hayes.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application for a attached dwelling, 3-bed attached dwelling to the existing property. Again, if I can refer members to the history of the site, an application for a similar development was refused for a number of reasons set out on pages 37 and 38. The current application has complied with those reasons for refusal in that it has been set back a metre from the front wall, set down below the ridge. There are no dormers proposed, and therefore we think that the current application has overcome the previous reasons for refusal. Members will note that there was previously objections to the impact on trees that would have adjoined the site. Unfortunately, and we're not saying who went in, but somebody went in and removed some of those trees. It isn't part of the council's property, and therefore any impact on the trees is now become redundant. So we are accepting the development on the basis of a 106 agreement, which requires £15,000 towards ecological enhancement on an adjoining council-owned site. So if I can just go through the plans, this is the existing site, and the proposed development is this element here. I can just existing elevations and the proposed, and the side, and as you can see that these are photographs that were taken before some of the trees were taken away. Most of the trees still remain, and if I can get to the last photograph there, you'll see some of the tree stumps that are there, which I think, yeah. So some of the trees have gone. There are still quite a few there, and the site still would not be very visible from the open space to the side. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, there is a very short addendum,
Yeah.
which just corrects the 106.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, I believe we need to set aside the issue of the trees being cut down to enable the development to happen. It has happened. There is no complaint from the owner of the land, and there's no action that we can take. They weren't protected trees. And in fact, the developer has agreed to this enhancement, which members may wish to tighten slightly to ensure that the investment is used in a maybe a particular way, but certainly in a more defined area to improve the ecology in the area.
Comment on that.
Yeah, please, Mr. Rocha, if you wish.
Stuart will correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're looking at Yedding Brook.
Yeah, Yedding. So I don't know if you can all see this, but this is the site which is part of the Hayes shrub, which is Hayes Park, which is the Hines site. Our proposal is that we will use the monies to enhance areas of this site of interest for nature conservation, which was Yedding Brook Fields. So we would do tree planting, things around air quality and the riverine habitats as well within that, and that's all within our own land ownership, so we have control over that.
And Yedding Brook is that land is also within Charleville Ward, so it's spending money in the same ward.
Okay. Councillor Duncan.
Could I just ask, the trees that do remain, some of them look quite mature trees with large roots. Would there, as we considered in the previous, or one of the previous applications, would there be an issue with damage to tree roots with this construction?
I think where the trees have been removed, they're now a far enough distance away from the development that it wouldn't be an issue.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking in hindsight we probably should have protective fencing. The reason for that is, although the development is offset from the site boundary, it's not so far offset that I don't think the builders are going to end up inevitably straying into the adjoining land. And as soon as they do that, we kind of may want to think about where they're putting protective fencing. So, if members want to be cautious, and given the site history you may wish to be, you might. Sorry to interrupt, Stuart. I think it might be sensible to have a protective fencing condition.
I mean, there's virtually the same condition as the previous application that you discussed.
Sounds prudent to me. Councillor Dunn.
I'll move the officer's recommendation with the additional condition, if I may, and go with the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And just a slight tweak in the 106. We're using it in a specific site rather than just generally within the council's purview. Yeah.
Do you want to specify?
It's not that it's delegated, I believe, and just says that the council enter into a legal agreement. So it starts there, I believe.
But the first lot is doubled up. They've doubled up the delegated powers. One to the director of planning, and the next one is down to the head of planning.
Yeah.
So we're just taking out the first one,
right.
left with the standard wording. But 2A1, instead of just 15,000 towards off-site ecological, it's 15,000 towards ecological enhancement in Yeddingbrook Fields.
In Yeddingbrook Fields.
Okay.
Site of importance for nature conservation.
Councillor Berry, you seconded it. Thank you very much, sir. Show of hands, please, on this one. That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 9.
Very quick on this one. If I can just go straight to the photographs. There is an existing property at number 9, which is in the same use, and this property at number 11, it is proposed to extend that use. So Peace Star Therapy is the current use, and it's proposed to extend it into number 11 and combine the two as one unit. No impact because there are no residential properties above or opposite, and again the changes that they are making to the frontage are acceptable, so it's recommended for approval outside of the protected local centre. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Ahmed Wallana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to actually move with the officer's recommendation. There is nothing.
Thank you very much. Second, Councillor Chapman. Hands, please. Show of hands on this one. Is everybody unanimous? Thank you. 10 and 11, we will take in reverse order because we need to first confirm the tree protection order before we can agree works to be done. So we'll one presentation, but we will vote on 11 and then 10. Thank you.
So item 11 is to confirm tree preservation order number 775, which is this belt of trees between Ferndale Crescent and the Cowley Business Park. The tree preservation was made at residents' request. The managing agent was cutting down some trees in there, and we were brought in to protect that belt of trees, which seems quite crucial to their well-being in the residents of Ferndale Crescent. So we made the TPO, and this is to confirm that. Comments in support were received. There were 8 formal comments in support of making the TPO, generally around the protection of valuable wildlife habitat, trees providing an important green barrier, and a historic planning condition for the development of the Cowley Business Park, which was open fields before that time.
Just to confirm that this is a belt of green land adjacent to a river.
Yeah.
Okay. Colleagues. Councillor Duncan.
It's recommendation.
Thank you very much. Seconded, Councillor Chapman. Thank you. So that is confirming the tree protection order.
Yep.
Now it is for allowing the work to be... Yeah, show of hands, please. Thank you. Everybody. And now we move on to the works to be done on that
So
TPO.
the next item is to consider whether or not to approve the works application. Again, various people have objected to the works application. Damage to wildlife habitat. A number of responses received raised the concerns about the effect the loss of these trees will have on habitat. Loss of the screen providing privacy and a noise barrier. The concerns that the proposed tree works will open up the area, meaning there was much more easier to see through to the properties and everything like that, and security concerns that the loss of the trees will provide easier access. Our comments to that is the proposed tree works include the provision for wildlife, because 2 of the dead trees are to be pollarded to a trunk and felled for a standing pole, so that attracts woodpeckers and beetles. The proposed coppicing of the willows will also help to create additional wildlife habitats by allowing more ground cover. It's a traditional management of trees that managing agents would look at. Most of those trees are also nearer the business park side of things, so there are security concerns around the willows breaking out and things like that. So it's kind of prudent management in that belt of trees there as well.
Okay, so we've heard from our expert that this works needs to be done. Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, move officer's recommendation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brightman seconded. Show of hands, please, on that one. Yeah, I remember that time. Everybody. Thank you. Oh dear. Getting late, obviously. Okay, we're now going to move into part 2. If we may, break the link.